Welcome back, everybody, to the Goldi Luxe podcast. Today episode is going to have more of a silent tone, more of a serious tone, and we are going to be talking about something that has happened and is very serious. Once again, violence has plagued our nation. And as you all know, a tragedy has stricken our country. Last week, Trump was in a rally in Pennsylvania and had an attempted assassination, and it resulted in the death of an honorary firefighter who was shot and killed while he shielded and protected his family from the shooting that occurred in Pennsylvania. My condolences goes to the family of Corey Competitor. May he rest in peace. Okay. Well, guys, it is trying times right now. There are many emotions that have arisen in the country and many different points of view, different thoughts on what transpired. Okay. Where do I start? So I think I'm going to start with the video, and I'm not going to replay the video of the Trump rally where Trump gets shot, because I feel like everybody has already seen it. It played nonstop for over 2 days. The news was just on all the details and interviewing everybody. So what I will show is a video I found of a witness who was at the rally while the shooting took place. And mind you, this video can be very triggering for some people, especially if you're somebody that is feeling some type of way, deeply some type of way about what has transpired in the last week. So here we go. Here is the video I found of a witness who was at the shooting of the Trump rally.
Stay under here. He's on top of the roof. Don't go over there. He's on the roof, buddy.
He's dead. I just seen his hair go up. They shot him in the head. He's dead.
Holy fuck.
Well, if they hit anybody over there.
Did he pull up a shot?
He number of shots.
I thought that was ours.
No, that was him. The first two shots were him.
Throws my mom.
Holy fuck. I just watched the guy get killed.
This is cool. Let's go.
And then the video cuts to a police officer walking by the building where the shooter was.
I believe the actor was dispatched on much more.
I can't believe someone do that stupid shit here.
So, very triggering that video is, especially just hearing those awful gunshots. Like, that is my worst nightmare. That right there is like my worst fear. And really is just you know, even somebody mentioned, like, I can't believe somebody tried to do that here, right? And my initial reaction to this video is just pure shock. It was over in a matter of seconds. The whole ordeal. It happened like that. Like, so quickly. I don't know. It's just, this video is a lot. You heard somebody in the background say, "Oh, they blew his brains out." Like, right away people saw the consequences of what happened with the shooter, and they obviously tried to yell out, "He's got a gun." And everything, this video is like 45 seconds long, and so much happened in the span of those 45 seconds, like shock, confusion, anger was in the video. It was just a lot, and it's triggering. The actual video, it was a live stream. Actually, a bunch of news outlets were live streaming Trump's speech in this rally because he was anticipated to announce his vice president pick, so it was a really big deal. And ABC News was like live as it was happening. Like, he was just talking, and then you hear pa 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 pa, and all of a sudden, like, the reporter, she's shocked, she's like kind of ducking a little bit, and you can hear like the urgency and like panic in her voice, like, "We were just right here, like, covering Trump's speech," and then a bunch of bullets started happening, and you can hear like that urgency and panic in the reporter's voice from NBC News. And it was just horrible that the shooting happened at all, but also that it happened on live TV, basically. Like, it was just crazy. Horrible, crazy. Just makes me so nervous. But so in the immediate aftermath of the shooting, so one of the very first pictures I found of him, of the shooter, was with the officers standing over him with their guns pointed at him. And I actually found a picture of them, and they're in like their uniforms. Two of them are in like military outfits, holding big guns and like pointing it at this young fellow. And what I noticed was that he was already dead in the picture. They had already gotten him. But one of the first things I noticed was that the shooter was a white man. Because you can see his arm. He's lying on his side, but his arm is white. Is very white. And right away when I saw him, I was like, "Oh no!" Like, that's stereotypical, like, loner, outcast, like that strange kid in school. That's like immediately what I stereotyped him to be. And quite frankly, it turned out to be almost like spot on my assumption of this young man. Okay, so continuing on, the victims. Okay, so Trump got shot in the ear before the Secret Service swarmed him, pretty much tackled him, and created this human pyramid over Trump. They tackled him so hard, they knocked his shoes off. Like, it was insane watching that happen on live TV. But one male was shot in the head and he died. And two males were hit and in critical condition. And as far as I know, they're still in critical condition in the hospital. So very, very serious stuff. So I found a video of an ER doctor who rushed to help the men who had been shot in the stands. And I have to give you a very stark warning. This is a very graphic video because you can see blood on this man's shirt, on this man's white shirt. You can see blood. So, trigger warning, very graphic, bloody, but very, very important. This is what journaling is all about.
See, sir? I heard the shots.
I thought it was firecrackers to begin with. Somebody over there was screaming, he's been shot, he's been shot. So I made my way over. I said, I'm an emergency department physician. Let me help you. The guy had spun around and was jammed between the benches. He had a headshot here. There's lots of blood, and he had brain matter there. And so I got him. There's a helicopter coming in to get him. I got people there really helpful. I got
Was there only one person
bench.
shot that you saw?
Then I did CPR, did chest compressions as well as I breathed for him.
One person.
I was the only one who
You guys,
did
we
it.
need to evacuate everybody.
So this video is a lot, and I know it, but everything about this video is very symbolic. The blood on the Trump t-shirt, on this man's Trump t-shirt, and Make America Great Again while he has blood on him, and like just like the look in this man's face. This is a tragedy, a complete and utter tragedy. And that man looks like he was about to cry in this video, and he's clearly traumatized by what he saw. But I know this is very graphic, but it's very important for us to see what our country has come down to, and it's just baffling and awful and just pretty much disgusting what has happened here. But if we keep going, we're going to talk about the early witnesses here. I know the last video we saw was a lot, but these are also very important videos that I'm going to be showing you, especially the first one. The BBC News interview a witness that no other news outlet thought about speaking to, and it was like very important to like hear this guy out, this witness. And I'm just glad BBC News was there, because they're kind of like neutral ground. They're not like, they don't have like a secret agenda. They're not right wing or left wing. They're not trying to like convince us otherwise. They're just trying to like give us the facts. I believe these are news outlets from the UK. So, okay. There were actually witnesses who saw the shooter before he started firing, and who also tried to warn police of seeing the shooter. So this is the first video, and it was covered by BBC News outlet.
Party here all day. At the, you can see behind us at the Brinkles Farm and Greenhouse here. We had a party, and we all decided, hey, you know, when we hear Trump up there, we're going to walk up through the field, stand by the trees up there under the shade, and watch and listen to the rally. Right? We couldn't see him, but we could hear him. So we walked up, and probably 5 to 7 minutes of Trump speaking. I'm estimating here. I have no idea, you know. But we noticed a guy crawling, bear crawling up the roof of the building beside us, 50 feet away from us. So we're standing there, you know, we're pointing at the guy crawling up the roof.
And he had a gun, right?
He had a rifle.
A rifle.
We could clearly see him with a rifle. Absolutely. We're pointing at him. The police are down there running around on the ground. We're like, hey, man, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle. And the police were like, huh, what? You know, like they didn't know what was going on. You know, we're like, hey, right here on the roof. We can see him from right here. We see him. You know, he's crawling. And next thing you know, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, why is Trump still speaking? Why have they not pulled him off the stage? I'm standing there pointing at him for, 2-3 minutes. Secret Service is looking at us from the top of the barn. I'm pointing at that roof, just standing there like this. And next thing you know, 5 shots ring out.
So you're certain that the shots came from that guy on the roof?
100%. 100%.
And he was up there for a couple of minutes.
He was up
you
there.
You saw him up there for a couple of minutes.
Absolutely. At least 3 to 4 minutes.
And you were telling the police and the Secret Service?
We were telling the police. We were pointing at him for the Secret Service, who were looking at us from the top of the barn. They were looking at us the whole time when we were standing by that tree.
Could they see
binoculars?
Could they see him?
Probably not, because the roof, the way the slope went, he was behind where they could see. But why is there not Secret Service on all of these roofs here? I mean, this is not a big place.
And the video ends right there. Well, that is very self-explanatory. These people are demanding answers. They're asking the right questions, like why wasn't there anybody on this roof? Why weren't the police like being more responsive to our warnings? Yeah, it's just so strange how people let this happen. But let's go on to our next witness. This one is on CBS News, New York.
Told one of our reporters in Pennsylvania that he saw the suspected shooter on top of a building.
And that witness said he alerted police moments before the shots rang out.
As Trump started, I noticed two officers that were looking for something or somebody. I was looking around myself and seeing a guy on top of one of the buildings go in between one building to the next, and went and told the officer that he was up there.
That witness said by the time he returned to his spot, the shooting had begun. He was not hurt.
Okay, so clearly another person saw the shooter, again, tried to warn police, and this was still able to happen. Okay, so last video was the first witness that was interviewed by BBC, and this was on the Daily Mail TikTok.
To him at all?
Oh, yeah, they blew his head off.
Okay, sorry.
Secret Service blew his head off.
Okay, just be careful because we don't quite know who's watching, but you're pretty sure they shot the guy?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
You saw that happen?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And did you see them go up to him afterwards, or?
They crawled up on the roof. They had their guns pointed at him, make sure he was dead. He was dead, and that was it.
Okay. So this guy saw a lot. And hopefully he was interrogated by the FBI or someone talked to him, because obviously he does sound like he has a lot of answers. But they blew his brains off is what he said. Like, that is insane. It's just so scary to even like picture or think about. But we now have a last witness, and this was his own account.
That law enforcement had responded to a number of reports of suspicious activity.
Ryan Knight attended the rally and saw the shooter open fire.
The guy beside me all of a sudden says, "This guy got a gun," and points. I look over at the AGR building, and there's a guy going prone, laying down on the AGR roof. At that point, I look over, the guy starts taking shots at the president.
And tonight, he's raising serious questions.
My main thought is why the Secret Service was not on top of that building.
Investigators are now trying to figure out how the suspect made it up to the roof. Here's the shooter located less than 400 feet from the podium. The shooter is outside of the security perimeter, which flows from the magnetometer tents where the crowd came through as they were checked for weapons. The Secret Service snipers, who were part of the team responsible for protecting former President Trump, were perched at a number of elevated locations themselves. Photographs and video captured precisely where they were.
Yeah, so a lot of questions arise from this. The video clearly shows like a clear picture of just how close he was able to get, and it was just horrible that anybody let this happen. Like, this is insane. But after a while of seeing the news, and I was just like stuck to the TV for the most part, I started getting more and more information from news outlets and Google and all that kind of stuff. But So what we do know is that the shooter parked his car and then walked 30 minutes to the site of the shooting. He had his gun and a ladder with him, and he probably used the ladder to get on top of that warehouse roof where he shot Trump from. And as it turns out, we later found out that the warehouse was full of cops. It was a staging area for the police to gather in the rally, that warehouse. And that is one of the strangest things to, come to light, pretty much. That warehouse was full of cops, from what I know, from the research I did. And not a single freaking cop was on that roof, was visibly on that roof, at least. Like the first video, we saw a cop, but he was on the ground, and then he walked towards the warehouse after the fact. It's just terrible. So reports later came out that a police officer did encounter the shooter before the shooter started firing, but the police cop ended up falling off the roof. And I have a short little bit of video talking about this here.
About whether the Secret Service could have done more to protect former President Trump here. Butler Township Police now say they were looking for a suspicious person in the area just before the shooting. The sheriff there says a police officer was actually vaulted up to the roof and that the suspected shooter turned and aimed at him. So that officer let go, fell down, and was injured. And the sheriff says it was right after that, in his words, the kid turned around and started shooting.
The police officer saw the shooter turn around and faced a gun at him, and he let go and fell off the roof and injured himself. Yeah, right. Yeah, freaking right. He jumped off the roof because he was a coward. This man was scared. And in this moment where he could have risen to the challenge and had courage and been a hero, pretty much, he faltered under pressure and he was a coward in this instance. And that one single man could have changed the course of history by stopping the gunman. He could have changed the course of history, of American history, had he been courageous and decided to act, to grab his gun, point it at the shooter, and had what do you call it? Like a standoff, or like shot at him, something. Not like jump, not just like be like whoa and just jump off. Like, incredibly disappointed. And I seriously think these days, like, men are not built the same. Many men have a lot less integrity, especially city men, and it's just too bad. They don't make them how they used to, I feel. But accountability, who was responsible? So the following is a statement by Robert Boyce, who was a former chief of detectives, NYPD. And I decided to include this video in this podcast because I just found it to be very impactful. So let's give it a listen.
From what I understand right now, there was an outside perimeter, and that building was past that perimeter and given to local police. The local police were alerted by someone, perhaps a witness, and they engaged. At that point, it becomes a little less clear. The police officer went up a ladder as he chased him onto a roof, and at that point was menaced with that rifle. Back down, and that's when the shooting started. That's really preliminary stuff that we're getting from the FBI right now. So therein lies the crux of the matter, that outside perimeter. And, Lindsay, in an outside venue like that, you really have to stretch outside of a rifle range and shut down and have frozen areas everywhere. That doesn't look like it was done. So I'm not saying it wasn't, but from what I can see right now, that's an issue.
And there have obviously been calls for investigations into the security and the event and how
it was definitely an issue because the shooter got so close to assassinating Trump. And handing off the outside perimeter to local police? Like, what? Secret Service did what? this guy, obviously he was a really good cop in his time. Like, he knows his shit, right? He's saying, like, you know, like, the blind sides were not, like, taken care of, and, like, the loopholes were not closed. And the Secret Service decided, this is, you know, far enough. We're going to consider this the outside perimeter. Let's hand it off to local cops. What? Like, you're the freaking Secret Service. Like, you are a renowned, like, world, what would you even call it? Like, people know you. People know who you are. When people say the Secret Service, people know who the Secret Service are. They're those, like, super, like, intense, like, people wearing, like, black suits and black ties and, like, sunglasses, carrying guns, like, those people. And they let things slip. They definitely let things slip. Like, what? Outside perimeter to local police? What? Insane. So the first facts we found out, later we found out that he was a 20-year-old outcast. He was part of a shooting range club. He actually went to the shooting range to practice a day before he shot at Trump. And, well, the gun was an AR-15. An AR-15. That is a big ass gun. Incredibly dangerous. It was built for, like, maximum human carnage. It was purchased legally in 2013 by his father. So this was a legal purchase of a firearm. No foul play here. And this young man had access to this firearm. But wait, there's more. There were 12 firearms in his home, in the shooter's home. So he had plenty of access to firearms. There were a lot of guns in his home. Clearly, his family was a big advocate for owning guns. Also, his father called 911 after the rally attack to report his son and gun were missing. So, police were notified after the fact. Like, can you imagine watching the news and hearing about this horrible tragedy and your gun is missing? Like, hell no. No. Like, no. I cannot even imagine the terror. Okay. So, an article on The Independent reads, quote, "The father of a gunman who shot Donald Trump called police after the rally shooting, worried that his son and a firearm were missing," according to reports. Matthew Crooks realized his 20-year-old son, Thomas Crooks, and an AR-style rifle were missing shortly after the shots were fired at the former president at a campaign rally on Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. 3 senior law enforcement officials told NBC News that the father then called police. God, no. God. Law enforcement officials then went to the home where Crooks lived with his parents in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. Approximately a day later, they publicly identified Crooks as a gunman who fired from the roof of a building outside the security perimeter of the Trump rally. Because Crooks was not carrying a form of identification, investigators used DNA to confirm his identity. The gun was identified as his father's missing firearm. Crooks used his father's legally obtained AR-style rifle to carry out the shooting, police said. Law enforcement officials told NBC News that upon searching the Crooks home, they discovered more than a dozen firearms. It is not clear at this time if Crooks' father kept his firearms in a locked storage container. Under Pennsylvania law, gun owners are not required to store their firearms in a lockbox or other locked storage measure, but they are encouraged to. Senior law enforcement officials told NBC that Crooks purchased 50 rounds of ammunition hours before the rally shooting on Saturday. FBI also found what appeared to be a metal box, which Crooks drove appeared to be a metal box of explosive materials and the receiver in the car with which Crooks drove to the rally. Police say it is a sign that the shooter may have been planning to initiate an explosion of some kind. Crooks' motive in the shooting remains unclear, but the FBI and other law enforcement agencies have launched investigations. Family members and neighbors said that they were shocked to find out that Crooks was the perpetrator of the assassination attempt on the former president. Classmates and neighbors also told reporters that Crooks was a quiet boy who did well academically. A video of one of his classmates describing the shooter. Okay, so let's give this a lesson. This is somebody that went to school with the shooter.
He would always wear a mask, even after COVID. He wore a mask. Like, you could look at him and you would be like, something's a little off. That's how I could describe it.
So he would always wear a mask even after COVID. Also, some reports say that people made fun of him. He was bullied a lot. People would make fun of his like outfits that supposedly he wore, like hunting outfits. Some people described him as a quiet guy. And I mean, it's just so strange. So strange. And also, people cannot really put their finger on anything just because he's just all over the place politically. Like, he supported Joe Biden when he won the election, but he was recently a registered Republican. Like, what? Like, he really had no allegiance. And it was really just all so really strange. But there is new information I found out recently, and an article by the New York Times reads, Gunmen might have scoped out the site 6 days before the Trump rally. The would-be assassin also had a bulletproof jacket in his car that he did not wear when he opened fire on the former president, along with several magazines for a rifle. A cell phone linked to the gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks, 20, of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, included geolocation data that indicated that he could have been in the area of the site, the Butler Farm Show grounds, on July 7th, according to federal officials and information provided by the FBI on Wednesday during a congressional briefing. The new details about Mr. Crooks' possible whereabouts on July 7 mean that he might have checked out the site even before law enforcement officials did a security assessment. That's not good. Not good at all. The Secret Service met with local law enforcement officers for a first walkthrough on July 8th and finalized plans a few days later. Okay, so the gunman was there July 7th, and a day before, the Secret Service showed up to assess the area. Jesus, just one thing after another. The Secret Service ultimately decided to exclude from the security zone a complex of warehouses to the north of Mr. Trump's stage, despite the closest one being within a rifle's range. That decision is now under intense scrutiny by Congress. The FBI is responsible for investigating the attempted assassination, but officials have not said whether the FBI intends to write a report. And the plot thickens. Hence why we have so many conspiracy theories happening right now on the internet. Weird. Okay, so continuing on reading the article. After Secret Service snipers killed Mr. Crooks, the authorities recovered a bulletproof vest and several magazines for the rifle from his car, along with rudimentary explosive devices. The FBI has said that Mr. Crooks did not suffer from any known mental illness, but in the briefing to Congress, officials said he had searched online for major depressive disorder. A CNN article reads, the Trump rally shooter searched online for information on the arrest of a Michigan mass shooter and his parents, who were prosecuted in a 2021 high school shooting. He visited websites for how to build explosives, and in the minutes before he fired shots in an attempted assassination of Donald Trump, he screenshotted a picture from a live stream of the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. A week before the shooting, Thomas Crooks searched online for the date of the Democratic National Convention and where Trump planned to speak, as well as other searches for Trump and President Joe Biden. So, man, it looks like he was like targeting the Democratic National Convention. He was looking at like different political figures. He was going after somebody of power, or many people of power, not just one person, is what it seems like. These details were among those shared by FBI and U.S. Secret Service officials in a Wednesday briefing with lawmakers. One emerging theory by investigators, based in part on the timing and subjects of his online searches, is that the shooter was looking to carry out a mass shooting and that the Trump event's proximity and timing offered the most ready opportunity, according to a U.S. official briefed on the matter. On his primary cell phone, investigators found an image of the arrest photo of Ethan Crumley, the student who shot and killed 4 classmates at a Michigan high school in 2021, along with information about Crumley and his parents, who were both found guilty of involuntary manslaughter. 3 days after the Trump campaign announced the rally in Butler, a western Pennsylvania town about an hour from Crooks' home, Crooks made numerous searches online for well-known political figures and political events. He searched for the date and location of the Democratic National Convention, which takes place in August in Chicago, and for the location of the Trump rally. He also searched for information on Trump, Biden, and other major political figures. This is just a lot. This CNN article is a lot. Like, it's just a huge pill to swallow and to understand. It's just horribly a lot. This guy, he was just going for carnage. I'm a true believer that some people really, really just want to watch the world burn. And this dude is one of those people. He just wanted to watch the world burn. And he didn't care who he brought along with him. He was planning to go down. And he was going to bring people with him, I feel. But, okay, let's keep reading the CNN article. Investigators have found data showing that Crooks had visited the location of the rally a week before it was to be held. And on the morning of the rally, he visited the farm where the rally was to be held for over an hour. So he was hanging out for an hour there before the event started. And I'm baffled and surprised that nobody saw him or nothing. I don't know if he was sneaking around, but nobody saw him. Nobody thought it was weird that this guy was just hanging out for an hour, just like scoping out the area. How did he even get in there? Like, did he have to hop a fence? The security in this whole situation is incredibly questionable, especially now that we're finding out that he was there for an hour. Get out of here. No. He then went home, and investigators believe he retrieved an AR rifle owned by his father. Crooks' father told investigators that he saw his son leave the home with the rifle and believed he was going to a shooting range that the two had frequented. On the day of the rally, his parents attempted to reach out to Crooks to find him. He didn't respond. And that, folks, is how history was made. That was all. He made a plan, did a little research, went for it, and people are now gone because of that. And that is very serious. It's just really hard to process all of these feelings with something as so vastly serious like this, but we gotta think about the why. Why did the shooter do this? I believe the shooter was going to commit suicide anyways, and he wanted to be infamously remembered. He didn't want to just shoot himself in the head, which, by the way, he could have done easily in his home. He had plentiful access to firearms in his home, but he didn't want to just take his life. He wanted to be infamously remembered, and obviously his name is everywhere. It's been all over the news for multiple days. He's going to go down in the history books, in American history books, forever as the guy who tried to pretty much change the course of American history by trying to assassinate Trump. And that's just a lot. That's why he was like specifically wanted to take down political figures, people of power. And to me, that makes sense, right? Even though like his political views were like all over the place, like he was a Republican, but then he supported the Democrats. It didn't come down to politics. I think he just wanted to be seen. He wanted to be remembered, and he was only going to achieve that by bringing down like either a large amount of victims through the potential mass shooting he was possibly planning, or a very important political figure, right? He wanted to get somebody of importance or a lot of people. He wanted to make that impact, like that impact of like terror. So I do want to say, even though I am not a Trump supporter, I am not a Trump supporter. My demographic would not benefit from Trump winning an election. I would not. I would not benefit at all from him winning. But that being said, I am glad the gunman was not successful in his attempt to kill Trump. I feel that had he succeeded in killing Trump, that would have definitely led to a civil war in America. People would have been beyond angry, demanding answers, just livid and like just ravaging through cities and just burning shit down to the ground. People would have been mad, incredibly pissed. And there would have been so much violence had Trump been killed. There would have been so much violence on the streets, like rural areas, in the cities, everywhere. Like it would have been like the purge, basically, like that level of like mayhem. So I am glad Trump was not killed. And I am glad that Trump supporters are going to be able to have a fair election where their chosen candidate is going to be on their ballot and not buried 6 feet under the ground in an incredibly tragic event. I'm glad Trump did not go down. My heart goes out to the victims' families who don't deserve the pain that they are going through right now. So I don't know what else to say. This is just a lot. But on a good side, if there is any good side to this, the only good thing to come out of this is the calls for unity. The calls for unities on both sides of the aisle. Not just Democrats, not just Biden, but also Republicans, including Trump. Trump showed up to the RNC. He named his vice president. It was like something Vance was the dude's name. He was like a white Caucasian male. And, in his RNC speech, Trump talked about like the shooting, and he said he didn't want to talk about it after this speech, and he had a much softer tone, and he wasn't as like dramatic and as radical as he usually is in his normal speeches. So even Trump, right, like toned it down, toned the political drama down. And Joe Biden also had a speech where he was calling for unity, and it was a really good speech that Joe Biden did addressing the nation, after Trump. And yeah, some politicians on the media were saying like that they feel like this incident is only going to divide the country even more. But from a lot of what I saw, like a lot of people, most people, politicians and experts who were talking to the media were saying that they feel like this is going to bring the country together. And I also feel like this is going to bring the country together, even if it's just a little bit, because what we witnessed live was a tragedy. No one should have to go through something so traumatic and scary. Like even Trump supporters, I would not wish a mass shooting, not on nobody, not even Trump supporters. No, that's something I would never wish upon anybody. And I don't think these things need to happen in America. There is no place in the USA for this type of violence and like mass shootings. No way. Like they need to stop, and we need to do something to make them stop. What the answer is, I don't know. It's very complex, and there's a lot of players in this field that are trying to make this not happen. Like the NRA, the National Rifle Association. There's a lot of people that are pro guns, and that's like a whole other conversation. But everybody, almost all politicians, like these politicians are quaking in their boots. Like they're calling for peace. All of these politicians look at Trump and they realize, like, shit, if they got him, I'm also a political figure. I'm also in this game. Like, the same thing could happen to me. That could have been me on that stage. What happened to Trump is what these politicians are most likely thinking, which is why, a big reason why they're calling for unity. They're calling to like, all right, everyone, let's tone down our tone when talking about political extremism and all this stuff. But so one of the last things I want to specifically talk about is the Secret Service's huge failure to secure the perimeter and save Trump from any of these traumatic events. They definitely failed. It seems as though the Secret Service is not what it used to be in the past. And there was a lot of videos showing like the response of the Secret Service. Like, yes, for the most part, they did do their job. They did what they were supposed to do, but they seemed like pretty frazzled, most of them. They didn't they acted quickly, but it didn't seem like they acted out of like muscle memory. They didn't seem like super well trained. And even on like the Trump shooting video, you can hear one of the Secret Service members being like, oh, okay, like what do we do next? And like people were saying in the comments were like, what do we do next? Like, you're the Secret Service, you're supposed to train for this type of stuff. And like people on the internet were so disappointed by the Secret Service. They say Secret Service is a joke and they're not like professionally trained, and the Secret Service is getting a lot of backlash from the media and the public and pretty much everyone. And I just feel like Secret Service is not what it used to be. They even showed like one of the Secret Service members, one of the girls, she was like so frazzled and like stressed in that situation during the shooting that she could like barely even manage to put her gun back into like the gun strap, and then she like held it up again, and then she tried to put it back again. She just seemed frazzled and all over the place. And like that's something that was mentioned on the Joe Rogan podcast as well, was like how like she unprepared she seemed. Yeah, there was just so many like loopholes, and I'm sure you've heard the news talk about it over and over, how Secret Service, like how did they let this happen. But this leads me to the conspiracy theories. Okay, so the conspiracy theories were running rampant on the internet, and they still are. I found the day of the shooting, the Hindustan Times posted a poll, and I mean, out of all the news outlets, the Hindustan Times, like, but a lot of people responded to this poll. It was like close to 6,000 people who voted on this poll, and the question was, Trump shooting, is it a lone wolf attack or a larger conspiracy? Hashtag US elections. And on this poll, it shows that 76% of people in this poll said it was a larger conspiracy, and only 24% believed it was a lone wolf attack. Like, the conspiracy theories were running rampant, like wildfire on the internet. It was insane. Like, all the YouTube comments were saying that this was part of a larger conspiracy, like all of them. So many people were saying they think it's fake, that the shooting was staged. Many think that Trump's reaction to the shooting was too good, by him yelling, "Fight, fight," while holding his fist up in defiance. They felt like that reaction was way too good to be true. And yeah, so many believe that he's definitely going to win the election now because of the shooting and how he reacted, and hence why there's many people who believe that this happened on purpose. But some even said it was the FBI that planned this against Trump, which is just wow. Like, there's no information to back that, but it is the FBI who is investigating this. So I don't know. So others said it was the CIA that was gunning for Trump, while others believe it was the Secret Service themselves who planned the attack. And because they turned a blind eye to the attacker, is what the comments were saying. Like, what? So conspiracy theories were flying all over the place. People were incredibly disappointed in the Secret Service's reaction and lack of training. But Trump wasn't. He applauded the Secret Service for their quick action and saving him and getting him to safety so quickly. But yeah, people were not happy. There's right now a lot of fingers being pointed all over the place to try to figure out who was really responsible, right? And it's just ridiculous, grown people who we believe to be grown adults, look like grown adults, are acting just childish and just passing the blame. There's plenty of blame to pass around here, but the real problem here is how this dude was allowed to get so close on the perimeter that was clearly not fully covered and secured by Secret Service, and just so many loopholes arise from this. But there is a real conspiracy theory in our hands, folks, and this is where I go down the rabbit hole, but it was an informative rabbit hole. An interesting thing that people later found out was that the shooter appeared in a BlackRock ad in 2022. So the New York Post article reads, BlackRock Inc., the world's largest money manager, has pulled an ad that briefly featured Thomas Crooks. In 2022, we ran an ad featuring a teacher from Bethel Park High School, in which several unpaid students briefly appeared in the background, including Thomas Matthew Crooks, the company said in a statement to Reuters Sunday, adding that the ad has been pulled. It's interesting that out of all the high schools in this country, they chose a random rural high school in Pennsylvania in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of weird if you ask me, but let's keep reading. The 30-second BlackRock TV ad features an AP and honors economics class that Crooks attended at the time, with the would-be Trump assassin speaking with his teacher. And here we can see a clear picture of him like looking up to his teacher, being very attentive in school and like, you know, holding his pencil. This guy looks like an A+ student, right? Sitting front row, paying attention, all of that stuff. But it's just weird. It's weird. So this is where things get super weird and interesting. So the Times of India, this is not an American institution, organization, or anything. This is the Times of India who wrote this. They wrote a very interesting article about the firm linked to BlackRock. And BlackRock, as we know, holds a lot of the world's wealth. So, a Texas-based investment company, Austin Private Wealth, has come under scrutiny for a filing made just before the failed assassination attempt on U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump. The company has vehemently denied accusations of attempting to short 12 million shares of Trump Media and Technology Group, attributing the incident to a clerical error. Oh, wow, that's a lot of shares of the Trump Media Technology Group. So, from reading this short paragraph, I looked up what short selling was, and it's basically a loophole where a company sells, then buys back a share at a lower price, and pretty much they keep the profit from doing this loophole process, okay? So let's keep reading. This practice often indicates a belief that the stock's value will fall. Trump was speaking at a rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, when an assassin fired several shots at him. The day before the incident, Austin Private Wealth filed for a put option on 12 million shares of Trump Media and Technology Group with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, which appeared to be a bet on the company's value plummeting if Trump were killed. Woo! What? We got to keep reading. This is too good. Oh, shit. Screenshots of the put option from a Bloomberg terminal circulated on social media, but disappeared later in the day. Some speculated that Austin Private Wealth had major holdings in Vanguard and the BlackRock funds, linking them to George Soros and the Rothschild family, further fueling suspicions. What? This only gets crazier by the sentence. Holy shit. Rothschild family? I don't know who George Soros is, but Rothschild's family is the richest family in this whole entire freaking planet. Like, these people are powerful, like, insane. Okay. So, let's keep reading. BlackRock's connection became more controversial when it was revealed that the alleged shooter had appeared in a commercial for the investment giant. BlackRock subsequently pulled the ad, condemning the assassination attempt as abhorrent and awful. Oh, shit. On Wednesday, Austin Private Wealth addressed the rumors on their website. Quote, the SEC filing, which showed that Austin Private Wealth shorted a large number of shares of Trump Media and Technology Group Corp., was incorrect, and we immediately amended it as soon as we learned of the error, unquote, the company said. They clarified that they held only 1,200 shares, not 12 million, blaming a third-party vendor for multiplying all options contracts by 10,000. Yeah, right. Quote, we deeply regret this error and the concern it has caused. especially for such a fraught moment in our nation, unquote, APW added, noting that they are, quote, reviewing our internal procedures, unquote, to prevent future errors. Despite the controversy, those who shorted Trump stock faced losses. Following the Butler shooting, the stock price surged from $31.25 to $46.17 per share before stabilizing just above $37. And the article ends right there. So this right here, guys, is a real conspiracy theory. This is as real as it gets when it comes to conspiracy theories, because these connections is like crazy. It's baffling. Like, this is beyond just like some like crazy lunatic delusional like way of thinking and connecting the dots. Like, no, these people are incredibly powerful, and they pretty much put their bet, they put their money that Trump was going to get assassinated. So they tried to like short the Trump stock so that they could later profit from it. It's just insane. This is just crazy. And again, this article was written by the Times of India. I believe third party information, okay? Like, they have nothing to lose here. But by the sounds of it, Trump has some real powerful people after him. If this conspiracy theory turns out to be true, which by the sound, it sounds like the Austin private wealth people, like, this is a real firm that's they're connected to BlackRock, who hold tons of the world's wealth, who were in connection with the Trump shooter at some point, right? Even if it was just an ad. And it's just crazy. If we connect the dots, like, it looks like there are some people who possibly might have known about this attempt earlier than we thought, had tried to financially gain from the potential killing of Donald Trump, and they lost their bet, right? Like, things did not happen the way they thought. And them saying like, oh, it was only 1,200 shares and like clerical mistake, like somebody multiplied it by 10,000. Like, that's bullshit. They were selling 12 million shares, not $12 million. They were selling 12 million shares of Trump stock. Do you have any idea how much money that is? Times 12 million times, what was it? Times $37? Or it was $31. Let's do the math here. 12 million. 12 million times $31 before the assassination attempt. $372 million worth of Trump stock. And they were trying to take advantage of this loophole, thinking that the stock was going to tank so they can profit from the stock going back up, so they can make money off of Trump's killing. Like, that is insane. That is so insane. Like, everything is all in the article. And who knows? These are some really powerful people that are potentially coming for Trump. They want him dead, I guess. Really, it's just like unconfirmed. It's unconfirmed, right? These articles are not, there's no proof behind it except for the fact that Austin Private Wealth, that is linked to BlackRock, that is linked to the shooter. Austin Private Wealth did try to short the Trump stock. So I guess there kind of is some truth behind it, and we're just going to have to see and find out how things play. Very suspicious that the screenshot of Austin Private Wealth trying to short the stock, the screenshot disappeared later that day. That is very suspicious. It was on Bloomberg, and we all know Bloomberg is like a billionaire who owns like media companies. It's just insane. Oh my God. This is a real conspiracy theory. And this is one that is worth, following after and like following the signs and trying to finish the conspiracy. But this is all I have for you guys today. I know it was a lot. It was a very heavy episode, not just for me to talk about, but I'm sure for everybody to tune in and listen. I thank you a lot for listening. I know it was a lot, but it's so important for us to talk about this time in history because this is going to go down in the history books, and it's so important to talk about it and give our opinions and have conversations, because by having conversations, it's the only way anything is going to change or come to light. And we got to speak truth and we got to unite. There's a lot of very powerful people out in the world. And all I'm going to say is that real life is stranger than the make-believe. Real life is stranger than the make-believe. So let's keep that in mind as we close this episode. Thanks again for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other, and I hope to see you on the next one.